Hello and welcome to Establish Effective Workplace Relationships. In this tutorial, we're going to have a quick look at how you develop trust and confidence through building rapport with workmates and with indeed other people. So to develop trust and confidence, we need to be able to build rapport, and we also need to be able to understand different personality styles, because both of these things have a very big impact when it comes to developing workplace relationships, or in fact any type of relationships at all. And so to begin with, we need to have a look to see what rapport actually means. Well, the word rapport is derived from the French verb rapporter, which, apologies for my French accent there, which basically means to bring back or refer. An English dictionary defines a definition of rapport states a close and harmonious relationship, which the people involved understand each other's feelings and ideas. The key words here are harmonious, which indicates a lack of conflict or stress, and understanding, which suggests that the people are on the same wavelength. When rapport is missing, the quality of the communication really suffers, and any attempt at communication becomes quite difficult. It can almost be impossible to gain any agreement, achieve any sort of mutual outcomes you're looking for, and sometimes even feel any kind of respect for the other person. The meaning and effectiveness of communication is determined by the response this receives. So, how do you know if you have rapport with someone? And I guess if you think about a time when you're introduced to someone that you didn't previously know, maybe a friend of a friend, and you got on famously like a house on fire, you probably can remember that the communication just seemed to flow effortlessly. You might have had some common interests or opinions, or perhaps there was something about the person which you identified. You might have even noticed that the two of you started to naturally reflect each other's postures, gestures, and eye contact. And this is called mirroring, and this is a really powerful way to build rapport. Salesmen do it all the time. So this is basically just almost shadowing, really subtly shadowing the other person's movements. And when it's done correctly, it can be a really, really powerful way to build rapport with someone quite subtly. So, how do you know if you've got rapport with someone? Well, it could be described a little bit like a dance where each partner responds and reflects each other's movements with movements of their own. So their body language is complementary and they're engaged in a dance of mutual responsiveness. On the telephone, their voices take on the role of body language with the same reflecting processes taking place, but this time verbally rather than visually. Now, this actually happens in nature as well, and it happens in all sorts of different ways. Um, and there was an experiment that was done by a guy called Yitzhak Bentov in 2000. He actually did a study on this thing that he called stalking the wild pendulum. And basically, what he did, he got clocks of different sizes, but with the same size pendulum that hung underneath. Kind of like a Grain 5 o'clock style, so you swing to side to, like a metronome to keep check. So he placed them on a wall in all sorts of different places, and he noticed that over time, the swings became gradually synchronized. And Bentov concluded that nature finds it more economical in terms of energy to have periodic events that are close enough in frequency to occur in phase or in step with each other. And I guess you could say that the key point here is that rapport builds naturally, provided that there's some commonality between two different people, and this happens at an unconscious level. By appreciating exactly how this happens, we can choose to raise our own awareness of this natural process. So, how can we build rapport? Well, we can do it through a number of different ways. We can have a look at it through both non-verbal communication and through verbal communication. Um, First thing that you'll see with this, when I put this up, you see obviously the guy's pulling a few different faces. But straight away, if you started to work your way along this list, you'd very easily be able to identify the emotions, or you could at least guess the emotions that each of these figures represent. And if you were to bump into someone in the street and they were doing one of these faces, or hopefully, maybe not one of these exact faces, but if you were to bump into them, you'd be able to instinctively tell how best to approach that person. Um, and it can play, non-verbal communication can play an interesting part in rapport. We do intrinsically start to make assumptions about the way people dress, the way that they walk, their body language, their physical appearance. All of these sort of things go to understanding or trying to build some rapport with another person. So what happens if we have a look at non-verbal communication? We realize that actually, do you know what, we're not we're not really in rapport with someone. And I guess if we realize that rapport is missing, there's a few different things that we could do. So the main thing to remember is we don't want anyone to feel threatened, challenged, or uncomfortable in any way, and we obviously don't want to provoke any negative feelings. So being aware of our own body language and the possible interpretations and assumptions that people might be making of you. So for instance, if you stood there with your arms crossed, with your head bowed, people may think that you're being perhaps that you're upset or that you're being slightly negative. They might also think that you're cold as well. So depending on the type of body language that you use or the type of stance that you use, it's going to throw all sorts of different meanings out there. I would recommend, if you really want to know a bit more about body language, you do a search for a guy called Alan Pease, who on YouTube, and he's got some amazing videos on interpreting body language. Some of them are quite old, but they are really good stuff. So one of the other ways that we could look at building rapport through non-verbal communication is by the process of mirroring, which I mentioned in the previous slide. And when this is done well, it's a really great way of building rapport with someone. Now, it's not as, you don't need to be as overt as crossing your arms at the same time they cross their arms, within seconds of them doing it. That becomes quite obvious. But just naturally following someone's stance or someone's movement can really help you fall into rapport with someone. So let's have a look at building rapport through verbal communications, and there's obviously two ways you can do this. One's through speaking and one's through silence. So speaking, how the voice sounds has an influence on our communicated message. So there's several characteristics that you've got to be aware of to help you gain more clarity from communication. So we've got obviously the volume of the voice. So if someone's speaking very quietly to very loudly, it can convey all sorts of different meanings. So quiet could be, it could indicate that someone's shrinking away from something or maybe isn't feeling very confident. Loud could be interpreted as excessive emotion, so really happy, really angry, along that sort of spectrum. We've also got the pace, so the speed in which words are spoken. So someone who's speaking slowly could indicate that they are reflecting about what they're talking about, or if they're speaking very quickly, it could be interpreted that they're feeling very nervous or perhaps apprehensive, all those sort of things as well. The tone of voice plays makes a big difference as well. A gentle tone of voice can make people feel at ease. It can make people feel quite comfortable listening to this. Although a more aggressive tone of voice, such as the one I've just demonstrated there, can really make a difference in maybe seeming a little bit more challenging or a bit more aggressive or a bit more direct. And then we also have the rhythm and the flow of the voice as well. So normal voice can have natural rhythm, and changes in rhythm could be a result of excitement, so it could be speeding up, slowing down, unusual pauses, like the two I've just put in just there. And with the flow of a conversation, if it's stilted, obviously, you can probably all relate to a time where a conversation's maybe been a little bit stilted, and that can seem a little bit awkward. On the silence side of thing, well, silence can be a source of discomfort for some people. It can make some people feel uncertain and anxious, yet silence can also mean that we are reflecting on what the other person has said, and that we're allowing them to continue and that we're patient. And mixing silence up with open body language and positive body language to show that you're listening is a great way of building rapport with someone. It's one of those things that if you are hearing but not listening, it doesn't necessarily make for a good situation of building rapport. And the final piece to this is understanding other people's different personality styles. And this is really helpful in appreciating that while people are different, everyone has a value and special strengths and qualities, and obviously we should treat people with care and respect. The relevance of differences, especially at work, is easy to see and understand when we understand that the differences in people are usually personality based. People very rarely set out to cause upset, just behave differently because of different experiences, and this is based on all sorts of different things. Now, behavioral and personality models are widely used in organizations when you're talking about psychometric testing, so personality assessments and tests. This can be to work out what you're most comfortable with, or perhaps your areas of strength, or those sort of things. And behavioral and personality models have been used by philosophers, leaders, and managers for hundreds and sometimes thousands of years as an aid to understanding, explaining, and managing the communications and relationship process. So, when they're used appropriately, psychometrics and personality tests can be really beneficial in understanding and improving knowledge of yourself and also of other people. So, what motivates? What are their understanding other people's strengths, weaknesses, preferred thinking, and working styles? And also strengths and preferred styles for communication, learning, management, being managed, and team working. So, understanding personality of yourself and others is central to motivation. Different people have different strengths and needs, and obviously, you all have your own individual strengths and needs as well. So, I guess the bottom line is the more you understand about personality, the better you are able to judge what motivates people in yourself. Now, in Moodle, I've got a couple of resources on there that you can do a little quiz to work out what type of personality that you are, and hopefully you can apply that to some other people as well. That's all we got time for today. So hopefully this has been useful in understanding some of the theory behind building rapport and personality styles. Of course, if you've got any questions, feel free to take to the forums or contact your trainer through the agreed methods. Until next time, best of luck.